ready, let's start.
Yeah.
It's kind of like exactly like I felt for the last hour. It's like,
Yeah.
there's going to be no difference.
Yeah. We're just gonna talk.
You just direct it now. Direct
And
it.
remember, we can start again if we have to.
Not anymore.
We're not on live yet.
Not anymore, because all our stuff that is not good is going to go on a
No,
podcast
no,
eventually.
Alright, cool. Guys, welcome to the show.
Morning, boys.
Morning, everyone. Glad to have you all with us.
Yeah, so a lot of the news this week out of the tourism industry. Initial reports from the South African government, there was a news article that came out. South African tourism set to only open again early next year, which got a lot of people talking on social media. There's a couple of groups that have been set up to try and oppose that and to say, what data are you basing that on? That's going to have a massive impact on our aviation economy here. Early 2021, Brett, how's that going to affect us? I mean, it's
Well, if you have a look at just the impact of the tourism, I think direct individuals employed in the tourism industry, it's estimated conservatively, 750,000, with another 1.8 million indirectly. Pushing it out to 2021 is going to kill the industry, there's no doubt. So there's a lot of lobbying happening at the moment. There is talk that potentially September they're going to start opening up the tourism side. It is opening from a business perspective, as we know. I mean, there's a list of B&Bs and hotels that are open now for business travelers in the country. But it needs to open up completely, otherwise the impact is it's going to be too big.
Yeah, it's massive. I mean, the South African tourism, it's become our biggest trade. I mean, it's one of our biggest trades here in South Africa. Well, let's see where that goes. It would be stupid to speculate now before the government have come out with any proper numbers and figures with it or dates. Sure. So we're going to have to see where that goes.
Well, for sure. I just want to add though, the government actually, they're stepping in now because they're offering, I think it's 50,000 to every tourism business, as it were, whether it's bed and breakfast, whatever it might be, to just to try and assist them and try and take away some of the pressure. So they are stepping up. What the procedure and the hoops are to get that 50 grand, that's another question.
Yeah. I certainly don't think that it's really going to have any impact until our borders are open. As soon as our borders are open, the international travellers can come back. That's what's going to make the difference, because that's
business travel first, obviously, and then tourist travel. Yeah, of course.
But the tourist travel is, I mean, if we're going to keep tourist travel away for another 6 months, I mean, that's going to be devastating. But if they can just open up tourist travel as well, because I can't wait to jump on an aeroplane, go down to Cape Town, go to Ceres, sit in the snow, at a B&B, drink some red wine and a roaring log fire. I mean, I will do that straight away.
I can't wait to fly that aeroplane.
Yeah, no, it's 100% correct. There's a demand for that sort of travel already from local South African tourists. So, like you say, Ryan, internationally, when they open the borders, things will change. It's just, are they going to open those borders? Are they going to open them to business travel much earlier and then delay the tourism travel later? How easy is it for the government to actually restrict that? We don't actually know. We're gonna, time's gonna tell. Out of interest, on the IATA.org website, there's a interactive map display. I'll leave the URL in the podcast notes if you want to have a look at that. But you can actually look at each country, see which country has been, the borders are closed, the borders are open fully, the borders are partially open. But they're keeping it in real time, and the cargo companies using it. There's travel agents using it to see where there's a possibility to start selling, tourist events and stuff like that. quite a nice platform actually.
Mm.
Brett as well. Each country, I mean, no one knows what to do. No one knows the right direction to go, how to promote the country, all those sorts of things. Just out of interest, Sicily in Italy, the town has offered to pay half of the visitors' flight costs and a third of the hotel expenses. Anyone that's wishing to visit Sicily. Cyprus, accommodation, food and medicine costs for any tourist that visits Cyprus and catches the COVID-19 virus. Cyprus will pay for those costs. Greece, they are reducing the transport taxes, and that obviously includes the taxes on the tickets itself. So they're doing it by reducing the flight costs. No one knows which is the right way to go. Everyone's trying.
I quite honestly, every single one of those suggestions is the right way to go. The tourism industry is getting a lot of momentum being built up, and I don't know where it started, for pre-booking. I know I want to go December time. I'm optimistic. I want to hit Courchevel. I can pre-book at a discount my flights, my accommodation, my transport. At the same time, I'm getting a reduced rate. I'm supporting the travel company I'm booking through, and I know we've got to the stage where you just let's go and book online. How about we actually support travel agents again? And if we're able to do that, we're supporting them, we're providing finances for them, they can keep going, we're getting a better rate. We know that we can go in December, and if we can't go in December, hell, it gets pushed over. I think, for my business travel prior to the lockdown, Air France gave me a 12-month hold on my ticket. So I was going to Toulouse, to Paris, to Malta, and they said, not a problem, fly in 12 months. If things are not clear in 12 months, we'll talk again.
Yeah, I certainly know that, for instance, the chartered company Unique, their bookings department, they are doing the same. A lot of their bookings are being deferred up until 2021. And it certainly looks at this stage from their side that 2021 is going to be a far better year for travel. We're just going to hold thumbs at this stage.
It's interesting what you say, Brett, as well, with the travel agents. We had a video shoot here at Samira the other day to build a COVID-19 policy, produce a training video for the students, what they can expect when they come to the Samira premises. With the cameras on your phones being so good and social media being so good, one could possibly have thought that things like a professional photographer or videographer would have died away.
Yeah, no.
But they haven't.
Yeah.
Because what's happened is anyone can take a good video these days. Anyone can take a good picture. But people don't want a good picture or a good video. They want a brilliant picture and a brilliant video.
Yes.
Travel agent, the same thing. There's lots of online ways to book tickets overseas, plan your honeymoon, whatever it might be. There's still nothing better than going to a travel agent, a good one.
Yes.
I think there's lots of sharks out there, but there are some good ones.
Yeah.
My wife and I, we went to Italy a couple of years ago, Greece last year. Anna from Travcore, fantastic. I could not have done that myself.
I agree totally. From a business perspective, I always used to go online. Now I use Excel Travel, and Rita and Janet and all of them there are just unbelievable. They take away all the pressure from me and the stress. I love it.
It's you arrive overseas knowing everything is sorted out, and it goes in line with what we as a group here are trying to promote. The aviation industry is not pilots, it's not just cabin crew, it's a massive industry. The hospitality industry, we in this together. And the travel agents in South Africa and Africa and the rest of the world, I hope that they come out of this, stronger, and people look to them to provide the right packages. I think that specifically now as well, when people are so unsure as to what the procedure is, if you're allowed in the country in the first place. So if you want to answer all those questions, go straight to a travel agent.
I think we were becoming very independent in everything we did. Now's the time to go back to depending on someone, because that's going to help an industry. The impact of using a travel agent, or I don't know, a variety of different services which previously we could have done online. If we can go back to the old way of doing it, just understand the impact it's going to have to that industry and those individuals. I think we've got to think differently.
It's definitely like it. I mean, as much as the world's being pushed to an online sort of platform, do it yourself online, and everything going at that
Booking.com.
Exactly. You still can't take away, like you said, Brian, from the professionalism and the sort of industry knowledge that those individuals have in their sectors, and it's important. It's important for getting things right, as well as for the support of all the jobs. And
look, we can't deny online is the future, but
obviously,
at the same time, we've got to understand humanity is still within us,
exactly,
and we need to take care of each other.
At this stage, a human brain can still make a better decision than the artificial intelligence side of it. So there is
some people that's debatable.
Yeah. No, you're right, Brett.
not in this room.
Guys, a bit closer to home, we mentioned in our first episode, whatever happens with SAA will have a big impact on the rest of the industry here, certainly in Africa. They've got an extension for the union's got the extension for the rescue plan. We'll see what happens there. We don't know.
I don't know. I still maintain that is a roller coaster ride of note.
That is now due Monday.
Monday. I don't think they quite know what the plan is there.
It changes every week, and no, it's just definitely one of those. It remains to be seen scenarios.
We'll see where it goes. It's not it will affect everything else. Unfortunately, or fortunately or unfortunately, it's going to have a massive impact going forward. South African Express employees out protesting, friendly protest outside DPE the other day. They, what are they after? Well, they're after fairness. They want the same as all the other SOEs have been offered. South African Express Airways in provisional liquidation, and employees haven't been paid since February. It's a sad state of affairs. They want government to come to the party. They want DPE to come to the party. I hope they do. It's what's right, and it's what the employees of SA Express deserve.
Couldn't agree more, Brian. It's important. I was certainly proud to see some of my former colleagues out there rallying for what's right. I think they did very well.
It was friendly. It wasn't in bad taste.
No.
It was just to bring to the attention of the South African public what has been happening, and the reality is the employees have not earned a salary since February, and they want to know why are they treated this way, and I hope something comes of that.
Certainly.
I'm trying to figure out, and as much research as I do, I can't figure out why SA Express is kind of swept under the table and the focus is on SA. I understand there's two different airlines and sizes, and one's a national carrier.
Same shareholder, Brett.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's what my concern is. That's where I'm getting to. Is I don't understand why there's that disparity. The guys need to be acknowledged. The situation needs to be fixed. The same attention needs to be given. The same focus needs to be given. And I think that that demonstration was appropriate. That's hopefully the start, and hopefully it gains momentum and government sits up.
Exactly that. I mean, we all know what SAA is going through, and I don't think it's any different for SAA employees, whether it be pilots, cabin crew, ground staff, etc. Everybody is trying to get the job done. And I know definitely from SA Express's side, everybody was trying to get the job done for the better
Mm.
good, and nobody that I know at SA Express ever defaulted on that, and I just don't think it's right that everyone gets
No,
treated
you're right.
unfairly like that.
You're right, Ryan. Yeah, they deserve better, and let's hope something comes of that. As well, staying locally, Safair, Link, Seme, they've all been flying this week. Ryan, any news there?
Yeah, I've been chatting to some of my mates at Safi, and it sounds like it's all gotten off to a pretty slow start, which
Mm.
was expected. You know, it's going to take a while to gain a bit of momentum, but they certainly have the right plans in place. And,
Not forgetting it's only business travel right now. It's not tourist
Mm.
travel.
Mm.
That's going to be the kicker.
I think even from business travel perspective, there is this concern still, even amongst business travellers. Do I want to jump on an aeroplane? So I know we've spoken about that.
Are you allowed to jump on an aeroplane? Is your business reason for
Mm.
travelling legitimate?
That's where I would actually encourage people to go and visit the Safair website, for instance. They tell you how to apply for the business travel.
Mm.
They apparently have a very good system on there and a portal that guides you through the whole process to make it a whole lot easier. So I think Safair have figured that out.
I think
quite
that's
nicely.
brilliant. I think
So-
that's needed.
Yeah.
Because in the first week of business travel opening, there was not one case reported of a business traveller being turned around. I stand to be corrected, but I think that's what the numbers were. And that was either because the airline wasn't checking or everyone was compliant, which I find very surprising. So how it works, I don't know. I think maybe I need to go on a business trip.
Well, we've got lots of DMs this week asking about certainly more hospitality sort of questions than anything else. But are we allowed to go if X, Y, Z? To be honest, I don't quite know the answer to that. Go on the website, check it out, answer all the questions. If it comes out you're good for travel, then please travel.
Like I said, I think some of the airlines have taken the initiative to guide you through that process, so check it out.
For sure. Going abroad from, if we have a look at China, do you know that China, since their numbers are sitting at around about 90% of flights same time 12 months ago. So if they have ramped up to such an extent, next week they're expecting a 90% rate. So they're effectively 90% of 12 months ago flight. The passengers on the flights are reduced. They're only sitting at I think it's about 65%. So they're ramping up. The passengers are still lagging a little bit behind. They're open to travel of any form.
It falls in line with their policy. A lot of their airlines are government, at least partially owned. So the government obviously playing a major role in what they've been told to do. What we spoke about earlier with what Italy are doing, Cyprus, Greece, everyone is finding their feet. What is the right thing to do? China obviously probably a bit easier for them, seeing that they're fully in control.
They're slightly ahead of the curve, so they had their peaks prior to the rest of the world. But an interesting thing, which I didn't realise, is that there's no such thing as furloughing or retrenchments in China from the airlines. It's an unspoken law that nobody has got retrenched. Everybody's, and I haven't been able to confirm it, but they're saying that this is what the case is. That's why the airlines have been able to ramp up to a next week a 96% rate.
I know there was probably about 3, 4, 5 months ago a story out. Obviously, I can't prove it right now, but I think there was in the region of about 400 odd, 400 to 600 odd pilots per airline that were getting sent back. Expats I'm talking about.
Right. Yeah.
But I don't know. I mean, like we said the other day, the size of China, 400.
Well, funny enough, I haven't heard any specific stories of pilots being retrenched from China. We certainly have from the UAE and other parts parts
Sure,
of the world.
but maybe it applies to Chinese citizens. I don't know, but that's a country protecting their people.
We'll check it out and
Or
report
control.
back on that,
Yeah, we'll get those
next
figures.
week.
We had a sorry, I just want to interrupt. Simera had we moved a simulator, and we just finished it. We moved it from Urumqi to Zenzu. Sorry, pronunciation's not so
Yeah, I know.
But we got authority from the Chinese CAAC, and so during this time we've been doing moving of simulators. We did it without any outside crew. We used our Chinese Simera employees, and we got it done. So that's I was very chuffed to hear that.
Big achievement. I think
Big one.
the team deserves some praise there.
For
Well
sure.
done, House.
Back to home a bit, Ryan. Maybe you can talk about this a bit. Seme are doing quite a lot of flying now with Airlink and Safair. They are quite obviously looking at this as an opportunity to jump into the market, and they have done. 3 years ago, that was not the case. They are now properly competing with Airlink and Safair. They've got the right gauge aircraft, they're flying to the same destinations, and they're competing on a very level playing field. Miles and his team, tap on the back there. They keeping guys employed, they're keeping pilots in the air, crew in the air, you know, checking staff, all the rest, and they're playing their parts. I think it's a nice story in the whole COVID, you know, crisis. They've looked at it as an opportunity. It's something that we've said at the beginning. I think it's a politician saying don't waste a good crisis. and they've taken that on. And let's face it, they would not be competing with Airlink or Safair even remotely had it not been for this. But right now, if you're buying a ticket, you seriously consider buying a Seme ticket.
Okay, we spoke about it last week. When you talk about that word resilience comes to mind. I mean, if ever there was a company that showed resilience, it would probably be Semi against all odds, given what happened in 2018,
That's for
19,
sure.
and now, and they're still pulling through. So yeah, I mean, well done to the team there, and be interesting to see where it goes from here.
They haven't given up, and
No.
and I think this might end up being a good thing for them.
I think that needs to go out to a lot of South African airlines. At Simera, we're starting training officially on Monday the 15th. The bookings that are coming through, the calls coming through, please let's get on the beach, the dash, the EOJ, whatever the guys are there, they're rearing to go, and they want to get in here as quick as possible. So I think that that drive, that desire, I mean, South African airlines are doing it effectively on their own. If we look at around the world, there's massive bailouts in France, in Singapore, in Cathay's been bailed out. These small airlines are not getting bailed out.
Well,
They're just making it work.
IATA are asking governments to get involved. They're
Mm.
saying, please get involved, because the airlines will not survive. The UK, 124,000 jobs will disappear in the next 3 months without government support. Okay, so that's obviously the extended job loss. It's not just pilots and cabin crew,
Sure.
that's pilots,
Yeah.
cabin crew,
Everyone
hotel
across the
staff,
board.
everyone else
Yeah.
involved.
Yeah.
But exactly what
Mm.
you're saying, it has a massive effect across the board.
I was just looking at the Cathay numbers, 39 billion Hong Kong dollars. That is a massive bailout. Singapore is the same thing. France is interesting. That's an interesting one. It's 7.2 billion euro bailout, but it's not just for the airlines. I think potentially what they're referring to here is all the industries that are attached to it. Your hospitality, your hotels, all of that. That is a massive bailout. That's what we need in South Africa. We've got to have it.
We got it. support, we spoke about it, I think, in the first episode together, guys. Government
Sure.
support
Yeah.
one way or the other.
Yes.
Reduced regulation costs something to help the airlines. It absolutely has to happen. We've spoken a bit about the international airlines now. The UK, obviously, very different situation to what Cyprus and Greece and that we spoke about earlier are offering. Bit of a bloodbath in the UAE. 200 pilots let go. Well, it was about a week ago, Ryan.
Yeah.
600, I believe, this last week,
Yep.
plus about another 700 cabin crew. Some horrible stories coming out of that. We're not going to speculate on that now. We're going to leave that and see how true these stories are.
Yeah.
But a bad, not a good situation. And what happens in Emirates, massive impact in South Africa because of the pilots, how many pilots are flying there. I mean, you wonder are there perhaps not more ATPL pilots in the UAE than there are in South Africa at this stage. We're going to have to see where this goes. It's a difficult one. It's a sign of the times. Emirates are trying to survive. This is what they have to do to survive. They're not flying the amount of aircraft. They're not flying. Obviously, it looks like the A380 pretty much done. So if you're on the A380 and you're over a certain age, chances are contracts have been terminated, and you've got 3 months to get out the country. That's what it looks like. That's what the news reports say.
If those reports are right, and as you say, I think let's wait to confirm that. But on the same note, on those reports, is Emirates responding to that situation immediately and saying, let's halt this, let's try and turn it around, let's fix it, and that's what I love about in business. If there is that humanity, that is that care, like we spoke about with Safair, that's what we need.
Exactly.
So let's hope that is what the case is. That's potentially the
It's
upside.
a world-class airline. They've made some world-class decisions to get where they are, and they're not going to stop now.
No.
They're trying to survive like the rest of the world. They've obviously
They have to.
identified
Yeah.
smaller gauge aircraft,
Mm.
not small, but
Mm.
probably not A380 gauge aircraft. For the time being, and for them to survive, this is what they need. So those decisions get made, and again, pilots are or pilots and cabin crew at the forefront of that effect. They are affected the most. Unfortunately, that is a sign of the situation.
Yeah, as you said earlier on, where we're coming from, we're supporting aviation and everything that it touches. So that means all the crews, the ground crews, the engineers, the hosties. I mean, everyone attached to that. That is effectively.
What's frightening there, Brett, that list that you've just given now, how many other people are on that list? There are probably another 1,000 that we can't even mention ourselves, and we in the industry.
Guys, the damage done by this whole COVID pandemic is exponential. The numbers are going to be drastic. I think, in light of all the negative stuff around it, you've also got to take away from the fact that it is a time where I think most people are finding themselves without jobs and in situations that require reinvention. And it's a lot easier said than done, but I do certainly know of a few cases where close friends and ex-colleagues in that are sort of finding new ways of trying to just deal with this, although they're not flying and it's, there's loss of income involved, etc., etc. People are looking towards different avenues to deal with it, to close the gaps, and I kind of find that inspiring. I mean, I'm hearing all sorts of stories about what people are doing, and actually it makes me quite proud to be a South African in that way, because of what guys are doing out there to survive.
And what makes me so proud, Ryan, is in South Africa, not especially I would say, but because we've been here, obviously it's more identifiable. But there's always been a divide between if you worked at Safair, if you worked at Mango, South African Airways, SA Express, Link, whatever it might be, Seme, one of the charter companies, there was always almost like a little separate world that you live in. That world has now become one. If you're a FedAir pilot and a South African Airways pilot, you rely on the aviation industry coming back to life. It's as simple as that. If you're at a flight school, you rely on the South African the aviation industry coming back to life. So it's narrowed the whole field, I think, for everyone, and that certainly is a positive. We want to talk about that a bit more. We want to go into it a bit more. I know for myself, driving here this morning to do a podcast with you guys, it gave me a sense of I was coming to do a task. This is what we've got to do. This is heavily out of our sort of comfort zone. I'm much more confident on
on a
eyeless approach onto 3 left during some fog that I am doing this, but throwing yourself out there, you know, you've got a bit of a goal, you want to achieve it, you want to do your best. It's so nice to have something that makes you feel that way and makes you ready and keen to get up early in the morning and come and do something.
I think what strikes a chord, especially with pilots specifically, is, you know, losing your job now and not potentially having a future, etc., etc., etc. Some guys
and your identity, right?
It's identity and status, and I think a lot of guys struggle with that. And you know what? I think it's something we have to deal with. I know it's again easier said than done, but yeah, you gotta go back down to grassroots, reinvent, and put yourself out there. I mean, when you came up with this idea a few weeks ago, like, hey guys, you know, let's put together a podcast, I was like, what? I never imagined myself being a part of a podcast.
Yeah.
But I must say, I'm thoroughly enjoying it. I love it. It's a new challenge. It takes me way out of my comfort zone, and I'm loving it. You know, you got to try different things, and that's what I want to encourage guys out there. Go out there, find something, do it, and make it happen.
We've mentioned this before, but it's the. I think a lot of guys out there, or guys and girls out there, pilots that aren't flying, you know, you think it's the flying that you're missing. It's not always just the flying. It's the walking through the airport, going to Mug and Bean, getting a cup of coffee, going through check-in, you know, all those little excitement things. And you can get that excitement from other things. We've got it from this podcast. I mean, it's not. We all love flying. That's why we got into it in the first place. But there are other things that you can do that gives you that same, whether it's an adrenaline rush or energy rush or rush of positivity, that has a tremendous effect on your overall well-being. And I can honestly say that by sitting here with you guys once a week has given me that. And I'm incredibly proud that we've been able to do that and to have a chat about the industry we love and try and send it out. And it's a nice thing, and I encourage anyone, not necessarily start a podcast, but go and just do something, get out of your comfort zone and get out there.
You know, Fynbos in the Western Cape only starts flowering and spreading through fire and destruction. We've got to look at that. You can't deny that. So we've been burnt. We've been burnt properly here. The world has been burnt. This is not the time to die. This is the time to flower, expand, grow. I think we have to understand this. Don't lie down. Get up, reinvent yourself, do something different, and it's going to make all the difference to your life.
And in terms of inventing yourself and doing something different, Brett, is there a better time for that than now.
No, now's the ideal time.
You
will never have a better time than
You've
right
got
now.
the time, but you've also got the platforms out there to actually
Yeah.
go and do these things. You can learn anything these days. We're going to talk a little bit next week. We're going to go into it a little bit deeper about what we can do. Ryan talked to you about being a pilot. What skills do we have other than flying an aircraft? There are lots of sort of peripheral skills that come out of being an airline pilot. And you can utilize those skills. You don't have to, it's not just about flying an ILS approach down to minima in bad weather. There's lots of other skills that come with being able to do that. And the medium, the online courses, the e-learning, the YouTube, whatever it is, there's an abundance of platforms out there that can help you achieve that. And I think there's some groups in the UK, there's some groups all over the world actually. A guy I've been talking to on LinkedIn this last week, they've got a platform, Pilot Coaches, very interesting, taking pilots and sort of reutilizing their skills for other industry. Amazing platform. I think we're going to see more of that. There's a little bit, I suppose, of a initial denial. You've got this identity as an airline pilot, that's what you are. It's very difficult to break away from that. But it's also nice to say, hang on, you weren't just an airline pilot. You had very good skills communicating with people, skills that we've learned over the years through CRM, multi-crew cooperation, all these sorts of things. We've developed these skills and we can utilize those skills going forward in any other industry. It's a nice thing to have, and it'll be a nice thing to utilize going forward.
Exactly. You know, I think, Brian, just to touch on one of the things you said there is, as airline pilots, we have the tendency now to want to look back on everything that we had, you know, in the last few years. You know, we had the cushy job, a fair salary, and a decent lifestyle, and that's got to change. You know, you said it yourself a couple of weeks ago in conversation where you just have to keep looking forward. It's the only way. And
Don't look back.
Don't look back. And
I just got to add from a business perspective, as a business owner focused on the business world, you have to every single day do something that betters you, re-educates you. You've got to do that. If I just look at pilots alone, they have that training constantly put upon them. They don't have to go and look for it. They've got exceptional skills. It's been done, and to convert those skills into something in another arena if necessary, you've got those skills. It's unbelievable what is available to pilots to say, well, I need to reinvent myself. I've got all the skill.
I firmly believe it's all got to do with mindset. You know, we decide this is how I'm going to attack the situation and how I'm going to deal with it. It's mindset.
Well, when I was writing the description of our show, I wanted it to be quite clear that we were in this industry, but we have a positive bias for the future. And I think we can all have a positive bias for the future. We're in for a couple of rough years, there's no question about it. But the skills that anyone in aviation, Ryan, take our cabin crew, let's take SA Express cabin crew the last couple of years. Because of lack of funding, there was massive delays, all sorts of things. Very, very rarely did I ever hear a passenger getting off that aircraft in a bad mood or in a bad state. Every single one of them got off it, even if there was a 4 or 5 hour delay. They were, those cabin crew managed to sway that entire aircraft to be pro SA Express. And it's remarkable. Those skills are skills that you learn by doing them.
Exactly.
It's skills that you learn by actually going out there and trying something, doing something, and you learn it over time. Those skills are priceless.
It's QBE, qualified by experience. You know, there are certain things that books and textbooks and online courses can teach you, but some things experience just teaches you better. So yeah, I mean,
For sure. Yeah.
We long way to go in the industry. It's been I would say when we were sitting down here together yesterday, the day before yesterday, we were trying to decide what was going to be said today and what we were going to talk about on the show. And there was a lot of negative news this week, and while we were talking about that negative news, a lot of positive news came out of it. So this industry, like we've maintained from the start, is here to stay. It's here, it's in our blood. We're going to be part of it. We're going to keep talking about it, and we hope you all stay on for the ride. Just to end off today, again, thank you so much for your support, everyone. Brett, the remarks, the messages, emails, Ryan, amazing it's such a good feeling to get that response from everyone.
it really is.
And we want to keep it going.
Just from my perspective, I mean, the response we've got from the podcast has been phenomenal. Just completely out of my imagination, and I've got a big imagination, and it's just totally out. But I mean, just someone I want to just mention is Velamiora Photography, Videography. They've loaned us Pitfall Malta has loaned us a
360
1X. Brian, you've got to put his details in here.
Yeah, I will.
He helped us with the video shoot for Samera for our COVID policy. He's loaned us this camera, which is a small fortune sitting on the desk here. But just his enthusiasm and his professionalism is unbelievable. If anybody's looking for anything, let's pump Velamiora.
All his details will be in the show notes. And how awesome is this camera?
Well, let's see when we put it on YouTube.
I'm going to try something here that I hope it works. But for all our viewers out there, if you like the show and you like the video, hit the subscribe button.
Please.
Where is it?
Hit the subscribe button.
We'll figure that out.
Brian Head Podcast, please like it, share it, do what you can. We've got a new guys, I forgot to tell you. I got us a new website.
It's always good to know.
See, that's Brian full of surprises every time.
I got us a new website. I wanted to include all of us, and the one before it was a little bit vague as to what we're so this one is it's kind of includes the whole show.
Cool.
It's called brianrosevear.com.
Absolutely. Let's push it. Sorry, I was just expecting Preston.com to say whatever. BrianRosevear.com. It settles the whole misunderstanding of all e-aerospace and all of that. So we'll put it in the course notes.
And the show notes, they'll be there. www.brianrosevear.com. And if you want a list of all the podcasts, just go to the podcast page, and you can catch all the podcasts there.
Just from my side, you guys can be my wingman anytime.
Thanks, guys. Awesome. Have a good week, and see you soon. Cheers.
Cheers, everyone.
Have a good one. Ciao.